Thanks for logging on to myfoxhurricane.com. Still watching Hurricane Ernesto. The good news is we have not seen any really significant intensification with this storm. It has been slowly intensifying. Winds right now are at 100 miles an hour. But as you look at this satellite loop, you can start to tell what's going on with this system. You are seeing some flare-ups of convection, but you're not seeing that one central core. You're certainly not seeing a well-defined eye in this system. That tells you something's going on with this. You see a lot of this outflow on that eastern side. You see a lot of these clouds kind of shooting off towards the north and east. But then over on this western side of the storm, you notice what's going on? You're just not seeing much in the way of cloud cover. You're certainly not seeing much of that fanning effect that you would typically expect. We call this more of an asymmetrical storm. The reason why is because of wind shear and dry air. There is a lot of dry air sitting on this western side of the storm. In fact, it's all around the storm, but because of that wind shear coming from the west and the southwest, what it's doing is it's helping to drive some of that dry air into this system. So from time to time, we see these areas kind of wrapping around all the way into the center. And this storm just hasn't been able to kind of wall off all that dry air and get wrapped up and really kind of establish that really well-defined central core in that eye. That is what has plagued this system, and thankfully that will continue to plague this system as we go through the coming days. I think as it goes more towards the north, the wind shear will eventually start to increase over this system, and we will continue to see more of that dry air. But as far as Bermuda is concerned, this is about the only thing that's going to help them is to find some way that this system is a bit weaker as it works its way towards them. And it does look like it will trend to be a little bit weaker as it heads towards Bermuda. Now, it is still going to be a problem for Bermuda. They will still experience some very strong winds. Very heavy rain, flash flooding is certainly a concern, and then some of that storm surge along some of the beaches there. They kind of have a mixture there where they've got some rugged coastline, but they also have some very beautiful beaches as well. So right now, winds are at 100 miles an hour. It's moving to the north-northeast at 14 miles an hour. As far as that forecast track, really hasn't changed all that much. Yeah, there's been little nudges here and there, but as you look at this compared to what we saw yesterday and the day before, it is virtually unchanged. What has changed is that intensity, that idea of how strong this storm is going to be. So as it passes near Bermuda or potentially right over Bermuda, in fact, for it to be called a landfall, the eye, that center, has to move right over the land areas, and that is determined by the Hurricane Center. They will make that call if this was an actual landfall, but quite possibly this will basically just kind of skirt the island. At this point, doesn't matter. The effects that they will feel, it will be the same regardless of whether it passes a mile or two off the coast or 10 miles or moves right over them. Doesn't matter at this point. That's just a technicality. But as it works its way onto the north, you see that wind speed dropping down 90, 85 miles an hour. There are some models that want to weaken this a little bit more, but still, we're talking about a hurricane most likely working its way over Bermuda. You can see how tightly clustered all the icons are. And that's because what we've been talking about for the past several days or week, that the trough that is steering this on towards the north, that is now starting to lift out. Those steering currents becoming a little more weak, which is causing the system to slow down. And then after it passes by Bermuda, another trough is going to come along and pick this system back up and race it on towards the north and the east. Also, the Canadian Maritimes may have to watch this pretty closely up towards St. John. Now, watch the Fox model as we go through tonight into tomorrow. There it is, very close to Bermuda. But again, you still have that idea of a lot of that dry air continuing to plague this system. The Fox model has done a fantastic job over the past 4 or 5 days showing that idea that the wind shear was going to be an issue and that really that dry air was going to be a big issue. It really played this out very well, and that has come into play here over the past several days, and then continuing to work its way to the north. And you notice what's happening. You're seeing on that western side all the way around the southern side as more and more of that dry air starts to work its way in. Here we are looking at that moisture in the mid levels of the atmosphere, just kind of give you a better idea of exactly what we're talking about. And from time to time, there you see where you get those lighter shades in there. That is that drier air filtering right towards the middle of the storm. That kind of breaks down that central core of the storm and just doesn't allow it to really intensify itself. And again, as we head into tomorrow morning, you're seeing yet another hint of that dry air working its way in. So it will continue to be an issue. And then watch as the loop goes on. You notice here, you actually see it getting just a little bit brighter because you're seeing a lot of those darker greens going away, which is telling us that overall the moisture level is starting to drop because more and more of that dry air filtering into this system, and that's why we will continue to see that plaguing the system. But still, even with all that, we're looking as it passes by Bermuda or right over it, you're looking at those hurricane force winds, a large area, so that will cause a lot of destruction across Bermuda as well, a lot of down power lines, a lot of issues. But the other thing that we're going to be watching is as this continues to work its way on to the north, starting today up across the east coast to the northeast, we're going to start seeing more and more of these large swells. We're already starting to see this along the Florida coastline. We'll see this along the east coast, where we could see some of these seas, some of the waves, 6 to 9 feet. As this works its way well off the U.S. coastline, but we will see some effects from this along our coastline as we go through the coming days. Other than this, the tropics are quiet. Of course, we're going to keep you updated on this as we go through the next several days right here on myfoxhurricane.com.